millennium, they are as dire as all the other prophets before him.
Edgar Cayce made some extraordinary and spectacular Earth change predictions. Probably the biggest one was that the rotational axis of the Earth would change. And that's something that would be catastrophic, probably even beyond what we could imagine if that took place literally.
If the tilt axis of the Earth shifted slightly, the entire mass of the Earth would have to reconfigure itself. It would shift ocean basins, it would shift where valleys are, where mountains are.
Some of Cayce's visions of that future were truly terrifying.
He speaks of Japan going into the ocean, inundations for southeastern United States, perhaps in a very slow way, but a permanent kind of inundation.
Cayce also warned the East Coast would not be spared.
Portions of the now east coast of New York, or New York City itself, will in the main disappear. This will be another generation, though. Here, while the southern portions of Carolina, Georgia, these will disappear. This will be much sooner.
He also suggests that Europe would change either geologically or climatologically in the twinkling of an eye.
Cayce actually foresaw these as part of the shifting of the poles. He stated that the Great Lakes would flow down through the Mississippi Valley system and from there flow right into the Gulf.
Amazingly, Cayce, who knew nothing about plate tectonics, said signs within the Earth would warn us of this coming pole shift.
The most dramatic predictions that Edgar Cayce made is that there would be the onset of major Earth changes that would escalate in activity from 1958 on through 1998. From that period on, these trends, they would escalate again. Then we would know that the pole shift was coming.
There will be the upheavals in the Arctic and in the Antarctic that will make for the eruption of volcanoes in the torrid areas. And this will begin in those periods in 58 to 98.
Volcanic activity events are increasing. The torrid zone activity has increased along with general world increase by something like 500% in the last 50 years.
Cayce also predicted a surge in violent storms and earthquakes in this period. In the last 10 years, hurricane activity in the Atlantic has been at its highest, and an increasing number of earthquakes are being detected around the globe. And in 1999, German researchers measured more than 200 earthquakes in a period of 7 months above the Arctic Circle. Are Cayce, Shipton, Nostradamus, and the Mayan Hopis before them reading from the same book of prophecy?
People from different cultures seem to have been able to tune into a kind of universal mind, at same level that Nostradamus and Edgar Cayce seem to have been able to tune into also.
Is the world as we know it about to end? Whatever he did and however he did it, Cayce, like all the great seers before him, left behind a vision of what our future could be. Whether that future unfolds remains to be seen.
One of the great paradoxes of mankind is that the most violent conflicts have always stemmed from opposing beliefs about God. A recent rise in religious fundamentalism has spawned random and deadly acts of terrorism that are striking with increasing frequency and ferocity. There are drawings in the Lost Book that point to the clashes at the very heart of this climate of bitter hatred and mass murder.
One of the things that fascinated Nostradamus was he had a 13-sign zodiac. We have a 12-sign zodiac in our world today. And this 13th sign was between Sagittarius and Scorpio. It's called Ophiuchus.
Ophiuchus is called the secret sign, and it's noteworthy that it is the 13th one, the unluckiest number according to numerology. Ophiuchus, a Greek term meaning serpent holder, is clearly depicted on the front of the church, some say, and also in the Lost Book. It is this constellation and its position in the sky that holds a critical clue about the last days.
Ophiuchus crosses the celestial equator just at the point where the center of the galaxy meets the celestial equator. Now, in Nostradamus' day, they had no idea that there was such a thing as a galaxy, much less that there was a center of the galaxy with all of these end-of-the-world prophecies, all of these connections with Judgment Day and the Apocalypse and so forth, are all connected with a certain alignment. And that alignment is when the sun tends to fall into Ophiuchus, into the gap in between Scorpio and Sagittarius.
It is in this very gap, in the area between Scorpio and Sagittarius, known as the Dark Rift, that the center of the Milky Way galaxy is located. The Great Alignment will occur when the sun rises in perfect alignment with the center of the galaxy.
We know that Nostradamus knew that the occult symbol, the secret sign, was the center of the galaxy in the night sky. So he used that as his marker. It's like the hours on the clock. They're just telling you what time it is.
Nostradamus scholars believe that the 7 images embedded in the Lost Book carry the reader step by step through a terrifying premonition of coming events. They are to culminate in the final disclosure of exactly when the apocalypse will occur.
We know that Sagittarius is pointing his arrow right at the center of the galaxy, which is Ophiuchus, which is probably represented by the scroll that runs up the side. And what it's saying is that at the moment of the alignment of this great moment, the knowledge of the trees in the Garden of Eden.
Nostradamus researchers point to image 66, the first of the sequence. The sun is prominent, highlighting its importance in the dating of the coming Earth-changing event. 67 indicates that the constellation of Ophiuchus will play a role.
The next image moves us a little bit further ahead in time. It shows the 8-rayed star, the 8-spoked wheel at the top with the banner. And it also shows the tree of life being impinged upon by some monster. In the sky, if you drew a line from the stinger of the scorpion to the tip of Sagittarius's arrow, the line would go directly through the center of the galaxy. The space between Scorpio and Sagittarius becomes very, very important. In this image, with the addition of the paschal lamb, the lamb of Revelation, there's the notation that this represents the end of time. In this image, we see again the 8-spoked wheel at the top. And I should perhaps explain why the 8-spoked wheel is so important. In the sky, there's a great cross that does not move, and it's formed by, from the center of the galaxy to the edge of the galaxy, and from the center point of our celestial equator to the southern point of the celestial equator. That's the divine cross. Down here on the ground, we have the mundane cross that is formed by the angles between equinox and solstice and so forth. So the 8-armed cross, the 8-rayed star, the 8-armed cross, the 8-wheeled spoke, represents the alignment in space and time of the divine cross above and the terrestrial mundane cross below. Now, curiously enough, this alignment only happens once every 13,000 years.
These crosses have not aligned since 11,000 BCE, roughly 13,000 years ago, meaning the phenomenon is now poised to occur again.
The next image in the series is the end-all and be-all of the whole sequence. It shows the exact time when the apocalypse is going to happen. At the top, we see our alignment of divine cross and terrestrial cross. Below that, we see 3 eclipses connected to an eclipse of the moon. If we look for 3 solar eclipses within a time period that is also bound by very significant lunar eclipses, we come up with a 20-year time period from 1992 to 2012.
Ancient and modern cultures alike have targeted the rapidly approaching year of 2012 as one of major planetary significance.
This is the only image we have from the Western tradition that pinpoints this time period this precisely. Other traditions around the planet have pointed to the same time period. Most notably, the Mayan.